Hey guys, Boris BK Force, and welcome to our walkthrough of the Crypto Trend Catcher EA as applied to the Bitcoin trading, as you can see on the screen right now. And the first order of business that I want to show you is that you need to have two, not one, but two separate charts in order to properly trade Kathy's Bitcoin Crypto Trend Catcher system. So I'll show you exactly why you need them in just a second, but just remember that you need two charts, not one, of the same instrument. So if you're trading Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or anything else, you need two of each in order to be able to set this up. Secondly, both of the charts have to be on the 1 hour chart. No other time frame is allowed. The reason why is because we're trying to create a synthetic 24-hour day that starts at 1700 hours New York and ends at 1700 hours New York. That is the conventional end start day in the currency market, and therefore that's what we use in order to configure and create the setup that Kathy is using for Trend Catcher. Since we're using the daily candles, we need to make sure those daily candles are synthetically configured to start at 1700 hours New York and 1700 hours New York end. So these two things go first and foremost before you even begin to configure the EA. But now we can start to configure the EA, and I can show you exactly why you need chart 1 and chart 2. So first, let's start with chart 1 for the short exit. The reason we have two charts is because we actually have essentially two trades. One is a short trade, then the trade moves to break even, and the other one is the long trade, the one that trades for much longer size, right? So Bitcoin right now trading, by the way, 54.16, 54.31. As you can see, on this particular platform, Bitcoin is defaulted to just one Bitcoin, so 1.0, which unlike, for example, if you were trading Eurodollar, which would be 100,000 Eurodollars or 100,000 yen or 100,000 pounds, in this case, it actually represents only just one single Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a decimal point, so the fractional trade in Bitcoin is 1/10 of a dollar of a pip. And the size, it starts out at 1.0. That's the default, by the way, in the EA, and you can, of course, set it up to much larger or much smaller, whichever way you like. So first of all, let's set up our short exit parameter. Sorry, let me actually refresh this, because I want to put in a clean version of this onto the chart. Say yes. And on this particular clean version, as you can see, I've left the stop and the take profit blank. And I'm going to create a template for you, which I'm going to drop in the Dropbox, which you can use. And you can then modify yourself any way you like. And I'm going to use a template on the parameters that Kathy left for me to use. So her general parameters is to suggested parameters is to use a stop loss of $300, because obviously this is a very, very active volatile product. $300 in this particular case is equal to 3,000 pips, because each pip in this case is 1/10 of a dollar on this particular platform. So I'm basically putting a stop loss of 3,000, and the first exit, which is the short exit, is 1,500. So $150 is our short exit. Now, the other component that I want you to take a look at here is the slippage component. Slippage component here is coded to 500. That's my default code. What that means is I'm allowing this particular EA to have only $50 worth of slippage. What does that really mean in practical terms? Well, at 1,600 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds, you get a signal, right? And then at 1,700 hours, that signal triggers. Most of the days, Monday through Friday, when that signal triggers, there's virtually no chance that there's going to be massive disconnect in the price, right? The price is going to be pretty much the same as it was 1 second ago to 1 second forward, and if it's a signal, if it's a positive buy signal or a negative buy signal, it's just going to trigger a signal. However, if the signal, remember this ends on a Friday and then reopens on a Monday, right? If the signal on Friday, for example, says go buy, what the EA will do is automatically go out and buy on Monday morning or Sunday night to us in the US. Imagine a situation where you have a massive gap opening, one way or the other way, something that's completely different from the price that you originally set up. First of all, if it's way above your initial entry, then your take profit is already beyond your entry. So you're already chasing a price. If it's something incredibly negative, you may not. It's not necessarily a signal because the parameters in the environment has completely changed. So in order to avoid that gap opening, which is really only a problem on the weekend, that is Friday close to Monday open, Sunday night open, we put this slippage component in here. And what this basically tells the EA is, hey, if the price opens up on Monday and it's $50 one way or the other away from what it closed on Friday, don't do the trade. Just pass on the trade. This is really a self-protective measure. Now you can put in a larger slippage or a smaller slippage, whatever you like. I thought $50 was a reasonable amount of slippage given that's basically, if you think about it, that's 1% of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is 5,000, right? So $50 is 1% of Bitcoin. That's about as much slippage as I want to give myself for a very, very volatile pair that can go 300-400 points in a day, right? Okay. Next, the other component that is incredibly important to configure for both Chart 1 and Chart 2 is the start of the day. Remember, we're creating a synthetic day, and the start of the day has to synchronize with whatever the time is on your local server. Not what the time is where you're living right now. Not the time is where your sister is living or anybody else is living. The time that is over here. This time over here has to be in sync with New York time. So what does that mean? It's a very simple way. I'll show you exactly a very simple way of how you can configure it to make sure that you're on New York time in a proper format. So right now, this local server is saying it's 2148 hours, right? So what we do is we go into Google and we say, what time is it in New York? Literally type in, what time is it in New York? And it's telling you it's 2:48 p.m., which translated into a 24-hour clock would be 14:48 p.m., right? So remember, our local time is 2100 hours, and our New York time is 1400 hours, right? So what does that mean? That means that our local time is 7 hours ahead. You see 2100 minus 1400, right? That's 7 hours ahead. We're basically plus 0700 to New York, which means that in order for us to properly start the day, the way the EA has to start a day, it has to start a day at 1700 hours New York, right? We simply add 7 to 1700. That's equal to 2400, or in 24-hour a day clock, that's equal to 00000. So what we do, very, very simply, is go back to our EA and say that our day starts at 000. Now, if your clock, for example, says 2200, then your day would start at 01. If your clock says 2000, then your day would start at 2300. Whatever it is, you have to find out what the time is on this watch versus the time in New York, make the subtraction, and then adjust the start time to the 1700 hours. This should always be equal to 1700 hours in New York. That's it. That's the most important thing you need to do, and it's unique and special to every one of you who's watching this video because it all depends on the time that your server is showing over here. And every server, every broker is going to be very different from that perspective. Okay? So that's it. You've set up the time. That's really the only main thing you need to do. You've set up your stop loss. You've set up your take profit. You literally don't need to do anything else in this particular setup. You can ignore every other parameter in here, right? And we can say, okay, and it's set up, and we can save this as bit. Let's call this crypto exit 1. Okay, let's save that. Okay, now comes the second chart. We're going to be configuring our second exit on this particular chart, right? So we're going to lay down the chart again. This time, of course, we know that the day started time is 00. I know it's already configured for us. We have the slippage configured for us. This time, our stop loss is again still $300, but we really want to go for a large number. So we're going to go for like a $600 run, right? So we put a take profit at $600. Now, remember there are three possible exits. Well, no, two possible exits on the second. Sorry, I'm sorry. I take it back. There's three possible exits on the second lot. The second unit, remember, we're always trading with 2 units, right? Effectively, by doing this, you're effectively trading with 2 units. You're trading unit 1 for short exit, unit 2 for longer exit. So unit two can, 3 things can happen to it. It could just get simply stopped out. Just the stop hits, nothing ever works, just doesn't work, boom, you're blown out, right? It could exit on a break of the Bollinger Band, in which case, what we need to do to make sure is to set this to true. But it will only happen if T1 is hit, right? If target 1 is hit. So that means only if that first exit is done will the Bollinger Band get out on T1, okay? Next, this, by the way, you leave it 0 because this says 0 from Bollinger Band. Basically, the moment it touches the Bollinger Band, you want to get out of the trade. That's the rule. We're just exiting on the break of the Bollinger Band, right? Next, we want to make sure that the other possible way for us to get out is if the stop moves to, if the trade moves a certain amount into the money, like take 1, profit 1, which is $150, T1, then the stop goes to break even, which is 0, right? So we're going to set that up as well. So we've set up all the possible ways that unit 2 can exit the trade, and that pretty much sets us up completely for what we need to do. Ignore all of this email sending. This is just simply legacy code that allows you to send an email to yourself. If you really want to configure it, you can. But the trading code, the code that's really matters, is what I just showed you, which is putting the break-even stop after target 1 is hit, putting the Bollinger Band stop to true, activating that, and then putting the proper long, large take profit, which is double the stop for your second component. The last thing that I want to leave to you here is this. Now, my personal recommendation is that you trade this particular EA on a separate account dedicated just to this EA. But if you happen to be trading many other different EAs within the same account and you want to test out the crypto trend catcher, it's very, very important that you change the magic number over here to, I don't know, any kind of a digit but the last digit. Just change the last digit. The reason why is because if you have 2 magic numbers of the same on 2 separate charts, it's going to confuse the EA, and it's going to confuse all your other orders with other trades inside of it. If you're trading this alone by itself, having just these 2 charts on will not have any problems. Will not cause any kind of confusion. But if you're trading other EAs, change the magic number on the second chart in order to make sure that there is no conflict in any of the EAs. And that's it. Now you've configured the second exit. You just say simply OK. Say OK. And now we say save template. This time we'll call this crypto exit 2. And I will be happy to upload both of these templates for you. So you could literally apply the templates. The only thing I will say is, of course, the moment you apply the templates, it's very, very important that you do not forget to adjust the day start time to your local time, right? And choose whatever size you like. This is just simply trading one single Bitcoin. If you want to trade 10, 20, you certainly can. The point being is these are all configurable, but I'm giving you defaults of how they should be run so that you have the right formula and are able to start trading properly. So to review, you need hourly charts. You need 2 charts to trade any setup, any cryptocurrency setup. So 2 charts for Bitcoin, 2 charts for Litecoin, 2 charts for Ethereum, whatever you want to trade, you need 2 of them because one of them is going to be a short exit and one of them is going to be the hopefully long exit, the really large exit. And configuring each one of them has its own different parameters. That's why we have exit 1 and exit 2 templates. I'm happy to put them all up there for you in the Dropbox. As usual, any questions, feel free to email me at contact@bkforex.com. And very, very happy trading in the crypto trading land. Boris Schlossberg, over and out.